I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, September 18, 2018, Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal?
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Here.
Mr. Singer?
Here.
Mr. Hennings?
Here.
Mr. Oakley?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two. We're going to go on to comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state his/her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anybody?
Good evening, Katie Gallagher, 10616 Minoff Road. And for those of you who don't know, I am the mayor of the city. So last week I had a resident come to my office and ask me to speak tonight. I did already speak at the city council meeting regarding the news media story that aired on September 7th about permitting fees between the city and the school. I'm going to keep this brief tonight. I'm not going to take the full 3 minutes or even 30 coming back here. But I wanted to make clear that this news story was not an accurate reflection of what actually occurred. And Mark and I did speak today, and I wanted to make sure that people understood that when we were discussing these permitting fees, it was in the context of Hurricane Alley and not an individual request for these permit fees back. We were discussing between the city and the school a state-of-the-art athletic field complex space, and we believe that this was for the mutual benefit of all of our students and our residents alike, and we've been working on this for several months. I think we both can agree that we'd like to continue these conversations. I think I can speak for my city council when they feel like this is a good project for our city as a whole. And I'm hoping after the November election, after Mark and I had already discussed before this news story aired, as they work on their levy and continue to put their focus on those efforts, that we could go back to this conversation and work out any kind of issues that the city and school may have on this project. I also believe that we can all agree as elected officials that it's our obligation to do what's best in the interest of the community. And I believe this project can really define the area, especially in the context of what we're looking at with the school lacking the funds to be able to produce these type of fields for our community, and the school having the resources or the city having the resources to be able to accommodate those needs on behalf of the school and moving forward. So that is it. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ron Van Kirk, 10122 Manoa Avenue, of course here in Brooklyn. I serve as the council president here for the city. I'm not going to reiterate what the mayor said tonight. I made a rather lengthy statement at our last council meeting, and anyone interested in that can watch our meeting and get that statement online. But tonight I would like to emphasize that my desire is to move on from this. Arguments between the city and the school board help no one. In fact, they only serve to hurt both the city and the schools. My faith, which I hold very dear and make no apologies for that, is a faith of forgiveness and second chances. And the Lord knows that He has to forgive me for things throughout my entire life because I have made mistakes, as have we all. However, forgiving is one thing, but before any moving on can take place, we must come to grips with both the truth and reality. In recent days, as the mayor mentioned, the mayor, city council, and somehow my church have come under attack under totally and now completely debunked pretenses. These attacks continue to take place online and behind the scenes from people claiming to be in favor of transparency. We work in the public sector. This is bound to happen. If people dig and throw accusation after accusation, substantiated or not, they will likely find a mistake or two about me, other members of council, the mayor, school board members, etc. This should not be alarming. The same could be said of every resident in the city of Brooklyn. Why? Because we are human. Human makes mistakes. We are all humans. I have made mistakes as a husband, a father, business manager, a teacher, and a council member, and will probably make more in the future. Saying otherwise of any person is ludicrous. No one is perfect, and no person in their right mind expects perfection. However, it is incumbent upon us as all public servants to maintain a higher standard. When mistakes are made, to acknowledge those mistakes and to seek truth. Perpetuating unsubstantiated claims in person or online are harmful and hurtful to our city. The truth is often not convenient, but without it, we do not have a society. The News Channel 5 story last week was fraught with half-truths, or as they used to be called, lies. When something like this happens, I try to put myself in the shoes of the one making the accusation. As I've tried to rationalize a reasoning for the story, I have come to the conclusion that much of this false information could have likely come from a miscommunication on the school board side. I cannot know for sure, but that is what makes the most sense to me. Upon seeing the story and coming to this conclusion, I tried to rectify it with 2 different school board members. I called them both directly. One of you spoke honestly and open with me, and for that I am grateful. You had no knowledge of the story, and upon watching it, called me back and stated that the information did not come from you, and explained where you thought the information may have derived. I very much appreciate your openness and honesty. However, still not having an answer, I reached out to a second member. Instead of offering any answers and having an open dialogue, I was met with, again, false accusations that were being perpetuated by an individual who does not even live in Brooklyn and had no knowledge of what he was talking about. When I pushed back on these accusations, the school board member promptly ended the call, saying another call was coming in, but promising to call back later. That was more than a week ago, still no call back. This type of rhetoric and action doesn't really make any sense to me and does not benefit the school or the city in any way. Both city council and the school board have very important jobs to do. These unsubstantiated claims are not healthy, nor are they productive. I'm not going to rehash the claims. They had nothing to do with the news story that I was seeking answers for. The worst part is that a week and a half after the story, I still have no explanation. As I stated earlier, I would love to be able to move on from this, but first the record needs to be set straight. I believe the city's response to this now debunked news story has been both measured and gracious in the public. I am asking that the school board administration respond in kind. I would be happy to speak with anyone about any questions you may have personally with me at any time. To date, none of the school board have reached out to me about anything that's been said. I do very much appreciate the service to our community. I know that the jobs that we have are not easy at times. And I look forward to working for the betterment of Brooklyn in the future. I want to reemphasize again, I harbor no ill feelings towards anyone. I would very much like to move on from this, but I do feel that the record does need to be set straight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Changari. I live at 8705 Morton Avenue in our fine city of Brooklyn. And I'm really happy that all you guys are here today because it saves me from going up to City Hall and coming back here. As a dad, I want to speak about the 3 children that I have in the district, and they are enjoying themselves immensely, and the programs are exceeding their expectations, and they're having tremendous opportunities. In prior meetings, I mentioned to the board and to Dr. Glykoff and Paula Jones, the Director of Pupil Services, the issue with dyslexia education. And since you all are here, it took me 3 years going through administrative reviews to avoid a lengthy and costly lawsuit going to due process, which basically is a educational framework that allows a parent to sue the district, and it costs a lot of money in lawyers' fees, and I don't want to do that because I'm not that type of a person. I don't believe in that. But after 3 years, I ended up having to go to the board, and we had a meeting, and I finally got my son, his dyslexic education, 1 period a day, 30 minutes for the entire school year, and I can't say the program because it's copyrighted and it's not supposed to be pushed, but it's the best reading program that Michael has. That's my oldest son, and I want to thank the board for their help and support, and Dr. Glykoff and Paula Jones for allowing that to happen. Unfortunately, my second child, who's my daughter, is also experiencing dyslexia, which is part of this entire ASD, autistic spectral disorder umbrella. And because the funds are so limited, and now that the mayor's here and I've got the director of the school and the school board, we need to come up with a funding issue to solve why we can't get money from the state of Ohio, the Department of Education, the Educational Services Center, to train our fine teachers in dyslexic dyscalalia, which is the math and reading disability that we've had. And there's a lot of students, not just mine. We recently had an issue with kids being suspended from extracurricular activities because of grades, and lo and behold, we found out that the majority of them are dyslexic. But guess what? There's only one teacher that does special ed teaching for dyslexia from grade 7 to grade 12. In the last meeting, you can look it up on the school's video recordings of prior meetings, that wasn't going to be good enough, because now my daughter is also in need of the same services that my son is. I know money is a very valuable commodity, but you know what's even really worse, the waste, is a child's life. From birth all the way till the time they grow up and have children and become old and pass on. I really think that we as a community can come up with a funding issue of some kind to not only address my children's issues, but it affects 70 to 80% of our current population. And I didn't make these statistics up. It's on the databases from the International Dyslexia Association. And I'm trying to work with the district, and they've accommodated one, but like I said, other kids are not even being diagnosed because of funding and issues related to that. And I'm tired of hearing about money. I think as a society, we owe it to our children to give them the best education possible. And I'm willing to step up and pass and vote for this new levy, which will cost me substantially more than what my budget will allow. But if I can get assurances from the board and from the superintendent that that money would be allotted to train our current teachers for dyslexic education and dyscalalia education, then I'm all for voting for it. Because I see the value of that $341 coming out of my budget every year to pay for curriculum development. And I'm running over time, and I do apologize. Thank you for letting me speak. It's not the teachers' union, because I've talked to them. That was the first hurdle I addressed. And I'm the kind of person that will go talk to everybody, because this is about my kids and everybody else's kids in this district. They want the training. The district and the school board think it's a great idea. We need to get the money. So if I know that that $341 out of my pocket and everyone else's pocket that has a house valued over $120,000, and that money's gonna go not to paying executives more money, but paying the teachers $2,500 to $3,000 to be certified in this educational class to teach children with dyslexia and dyscalalia. And I hope in the future, in the summer, we can look back at this video and find out that we are funding this program. And it's not just for one teacher for 7 grades. It's every teacher in this district, like we have from pre-K to 3rd, is certified. Because you can't graduate a child that can't read and write. Because that becomes the problem of our fine mayor in the community, because that sucks resources from the larger picture of our country. So I will close by saying thank you for the help. Thank you to Mrs. Jones and Mr. Glykoff. But I really think when you guys are meeting, we need to come up with funding issues to address this very, very minor dysfunction that we all have. And I challenge you all to look up the International Dyslexic Association's definition. They've adopted it for the entire country, and the state of Ohio has codified it in the education law to address this. Thank you very much. God bless everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Michael. If I know how to spell that.
Can I make a clarification there?
Sure.
So the cost for a $100,000 house is estimated at $241 and not the $341?
Well, mine's worth more than $100,000.
So yeah, so so the estimate is if you have a house that's valued at $100,000?
Yeah, it's $241.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
I
but,
understand.
yes, so for you, it's $340.
Little more,
Yeah, a little
yes.
bit more. For a $100,000 house, it would be
Yes,
$241.
I wasn't, yeah, thank you.
Yep, nope, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go on to Actually, we're gonna actually amend the agenda. I gotta make a motion to amend the agenda.
So
Is-
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
We're to go on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Neal. I got a few things tonight before I'm going to hand it off to Mrs. Kalish. What I first would like to do, I want to thank the mayor for coming, obviously your comments as well, Mr. Van Kirk, as well as Mr. Shane Garrett. Thanks for your support of issue 3. But relative to the mayor's comments tonight, I'd like to offer some comments. One of the new strategic plan goals for the Brooklyn City School District for this year is to build community trust in the Brooklyn City Schools through purposeful engagement and communications. Building trust in the city schools right now through purposeful engagement and communications, it's critical as the Board of Education is asking for our Brooklyn community to vote in favor of a 6.9 mil operating levy on November 6, 2018. Now, the schools and the Board of Education enjoy an amicable partnership with the City of Brooklyn and is actively engaged in many discussions on many potential projects that will benefit our students. One of those potential projects is the redevelopment of Hurricane Alley into mixed-use fields for both the school district and the city. Now, the City of Brooklyn is not required to assess building permit fees against the city school district. With that being said, we appreciate that the City of Brooklyn has recently chosen not to assess building fees on the current repairs the district is doing on its high school roof. Nonetheless, the City of Brooklyn, under a prior administration, assessed the Board of Education in building permit fees in excess of $180,000. Now, those fees were for the construction of the new pre-K 7 school, in which our students of Brooklyn enjoy, and the repairs to Brooklyn Stadium that is enjoyed greatly by our students and community here in Brooklyn. These fees that were assessed were specifically discussed relative to the Hurricane Alley project between the city and the school district, and as the mayor just shared. The Brooklyn community trusts the district with its two greatest resources: its students and its tax dollars. To that end, it is only fair that the district must actively engage in a variety of internal cost-cutting measures and external cost-saving measures through purposeful engagement and communications with all stakeholders. Including in those stakeholders is the City of Brooklyn. Included in purposeful engagement is pursuing reimbursement of past permit fees from the city in conjunction with potential future projects like the redevelopment of Hurricane Alley. It would be fiscally irresponsible for me not to inquire about these fees in light of the current levy that's on the November ballot. Now, it is my hope that these discussions about Hurricane Alley are not over, as this project has benefit for the students here in Brooklyn, for our residents, and the community of Brooklyn. I look forward to continued purposeful engagement and communications with the entire Brooklyn community, including the City of Brooklyn, well into the future. With that being said, I have a few other comments that I had ready for tonight. First of all, September 19th, we've blown through the first few weeks of school, and I want to thank teachers, administration, my administrative staff, our staff members for really a great, smooth opening to the school year. It's gone very well. I feel a real excitement and a vibrancy amongst our student body, going into classes, going and seeing them, and I think it's a credit really to these folks. So I know a lot of the administrative staff are here, Mrs. Neal and Mrs. Jones, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Taylor Smith, Mrs. Ryback. We've got the whole crew. Mrs. Kalish, obviously, is a new face and has done some wonderful work. I'm really, really pleased. Our principals has done a wonderful job, and I've heard many, many positive comments from our parents and across there. So I did want to acknowledge that. Next thing that's critical, and I left some pieces in front of you, really talking about next Tuesday night, which is going to be a finance forum, really talking about our schools and where we are financially, which really is going to be kind of also be as kind of a levy kickoff. But we really want to talk with those that come to next Tuesday to discuss where we are financially currently and why the need for the 6.9 mil continuing operating levy. I have had the privilege to meet with many of the city council members. I've invited them up, and I've talked with, I think, 6 of the 7 perhaps. And so wanted to share with them, talk with the mayor, talk with the finance director. So really trying to get the word out about, why we are asking for this. Because we know it's a big ask to the community, but we also, we have a big need as well. So that's next Tuesday. It's going to start at 6 o'clock because I know there's some meetings that are after that. Wanted to give you an update on roof repair. We're currently at a point where the band wing area has already been completed. The above the second floor of the high school is probably about a day or 2 from completion. I think Mrs. Neal and I heard that from the roofers. And then they're going to move over to the cafeteria area, which is another one of those really high need areas. So we're in a good place. I've been pleased with the process so far and the progress that the team has worked on. But one of the key things tonight I wanted to talk about was the report card. Last Thursday, the state of Ohio issued report cards to all the school districts and as well as the state. We received ours, and I wanted Mrs. Kalish to present a little bit about that. I mean, the spoiler alert is, as I've shared with you, I think we've made some improvements. We continue to improve, and I think she's going to share that with you. I'm pleased with the progress. Is it where we want to ultimately be? No. I'll tell you that right now. We still have got areas that we want to continue to improve upon. But you'll see from what she shares tonight that we are making progress, and we're going certainly in the right direction. So, Mrs. Kalish? Just keep coughing.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. So I'm feeling a little under the weather, so bear with me. I will take frequent drinks from my water here to hopefully stay on task. But as Dr. Gleikoff mentioned, the district did see growth on the report card. Is it where we want to be? No, but it is definitely moving in the right direction. So first the overview, and I did a comparison of last year's report card, which is at the bottom, with this year's report card. The state has given us a new framework for looking at it. Our achievement remained consistent with a D overall, and I'm going to get into each of the details as we go through, but I want to talk about the components of it. Progress, we moved from a B from last year up to an A. Gap closing, we moved from an F to a D. Graduation rate, we moved up as well, from a B to an A. K-3 literacy, I'm going to talk a little bit at length about K-3 literacy. We dropped in that area. And prepared for success, we dropped on the overall report card, but as you'll see in the later slides, we didn't really drop, just the measure changed from the state's perspective. So achievement. An achievement is a big window of areas on the report card, and I'm going to break it down here in a little bit. But it basically represents where the students performed on the state assessments overall, and how well they measured in chronic absenteeism, which was new this year to the report card. And I think that is why, another reason why you'll see we had growth, significant growth in achievement, but we stayed consistent with the grade. We went up a few percentage points, but stayed in the D range. I think we had a 65.3 last year. So indicators, as you can see, not what I'd like to see. There's a lot of red. However, the metric changed from 75% as the threshold to 80%. So even if we saw growth, that target's a frequently moving target. So in some areas, we were really close to that if the measure had stayed the same, but it went up. So we're still shooting for that 80% mark. But we did make the indicator met in government history and the end of course improvement indicator. So that indicator is for students who have retaken the end of course exam and improved their scores. This is where I really want to spend some time, because the report card while it's a great measure of overall performance, it doesn't really get into the heart of what's going on inside classrooms. And you'll hear a lot of districts are doing, including Brooklyn, doing a quality profile for that reason, because there's more to it than that big fat letter grade that you get, but really what's happening. And so what I did is I took the data from 15-16, which is our baseline data, that's when the test changed over. And so this is where we were to start, and this is the improvement we saw in 16-17. So the green areas where we improved from 15-16, 16-17. The red is areas where we dropped. And now if you remember, this was park and this is air. So two different assessments, but it's what we have for baseline data. Then moving up to this year, the 17-18 school year, where we received our report card, notice the significant increase in the areas of green in the report card. Do we still have areas of red? Yes. And there will be some fluctuation there. We're still working on those areas. The orange area that you see in there is indicated in the key. That's an area that stayed the same. There was no change from last year to this year's report card. I think the most significant thing that I want to point out on this is that there are significant increases in several areas. Algebra 1 being one of them, there's a 20-point gain. Now that's significant when we talk about student growth, but unfortunately we didn't hit that 80% mark, so we didn't get credit on the indicator in terms of, you know, that big letter grade because we didn't hit the indicator. But as you'll see later on in progress, we did. We did get credit on the report card for that. And these are areas we're going to continue to work on across the board in K-12. We're not just because we've gotten green, we're going to stay stagnant and not continue to work on improvements. I know we're meeting tomorrow as a late start, and we're going to be talking a lot about how to continue to make gains in this area. Does the board have any questions about that last slide? Progress component, this is where basically you've heard the term value added. That's where this information comes in. It shows the growth of students overall, and again, we got an A in this measure, which shows that we've made significant gains in that, and that last slide really demonstrated this, where we made significant gains. Overall, we have an A, gifted students, we earned a B. Students in the lowest achievement area and students with disabilities get an A and B respectively. What I would say about gifted is an area that I have spent some time discussing with Dr. Gleikoff and with some of our staff. Gifted is probably the most challenging area to move because those students are already achieving at a high level. So once you get up to that level, it's difficult to keep moving students up. So districts do see challenges with getting a high rating in the gifted area, so I'm happy with that. I would rather see an A. So we're going to continue, again, to work on that in our classrooms. But our lowest 20%, that's our socioeconomically disadvantaged, students of color, so on and so forth. Again, those are areas where districts typically see a lower achievement rate, so I'm very proud of Brooklyn's achievement in that area, as well as with students with disabilities. We're working hard in those areas as well. So, oops, sorry about that. Gap closing. So gap closing changed this school year, and we saw an increase. I put up the 2 prior years. We had an F in both years. But if you notice the percentile, the percentages that we had a 25% in 15-16. We moved to a 47% last year, or 16-17 report card, and then a 69% in 17-18. So even though we only earned a D on the report card, you notice that we're still making progress in that area as well. And I would say one of the things I told Dr. Gleikoff today, I said, look, we had a 69.1. We were almost to a C. Almost, but not quite. So again, continued progress.
Gap closing definition.
Yep, so that's what I'm going to talk about here.
Okay. Gotcha.
So gap closing really is you get performance index points for each of the areas on the assessment. So students who are advanced plus, you can get a 1.3 for that student. Students who are advanced, 1.2, accelerated, so on and so forth. It used to be you did not get any points in these 2 areas. Students who were basic and limited, you got no point, 0. Now in this report card, they gave us points for students that were achieving in this area, even though it's not proficient, because it shows we are working with these kids. They're just not quite where we want them to be. So the metric changed this year, and we did get some points in those areas as well. but also, and so these are the areas where I said we really could be making some progress as well. We've got some kids at the top of the performance, but they're not showing that on their OSTs. So we need to work with those kids as well. Does that help explain?
Mhm.
Yeah, closing?
For me.
So K-3 literacy, this is an area that is going to be a focus for the district. This chart comes directly from the report card. It gives us the information. We had 98.6% of our students met the requirements to move on to 4th grade, so we got them on track. But we had some kids not on track, and that's a significant number we want to address. So I'm going to flip through. This is the kindergarten diagnostic, 1st grade, 2nd, and 3rd grade shows where our kids were on track and not on track. But this is where I want to spend some time explaining K-3 literacy. So research across the board, and you can find research to support a lot of things, but in K-3 literacy, the research is sound in that if we don't get our kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade, they're likely never to be on track. They're more likely to drop out, and they're more likely to become eligible for an IEP. So we need to work very diligently to get our kids on track prior to 3rd grade. And there are 2 components to getting kids on track. Reading comprehension is the end goal. And I set this up like a multiplication problem. Because 1 times 0 is 0. If they are decoding and they have no language comprehension, they're not going to have reading comprehension. If they can't decode, but they can comprehend language, they're still not going to comprehend reading, because the 2 are very different. And then I share this down here where we talked about it's very similar to what's up here. We are doing a good job here, right now, in Brooklyn. My observational data going into classrooms from the start of the school year shows that this is the area where some classrooms are showing weaknesses. And so I'll be working with the staff in coming up with strategies and interventions to assist so that both of these are in place so we can get the 1 times 1 is 1. Graduation rate, we've gone up for the last 3 years in the graduation rate. Now, last year, the Ohio Department of Education gave alternative pathways. And for some of our kids, that is what fits their needs. And we talk about a personalized education, and that comes from the state level. But when it comes to graduation, it's a one-size-fits-all. So the state is really need to get in line with what they're saying and what they're expecting from kids. Right now, we don't have many alternative pathways. There are 3 ways to graduate. One is to get 18 points on the end of course exam. The other is to pass the work keys with 13 and finish their credentials in a workplace credentialing. And the last is to receive a remediation-free score on the ACT or SAT. This is an area of concern for this year because there aren't any of those other pathways that were in place last year. Now, there's conversation at the state board level that they will be examining those in the coming months, and perhaps we will have those in place again. But we are having conversations at the high school level with the administration and the counselors in looking at alternative pathways for students and trying to get them tutoring and that to get them to graduation. But it is definitely an area that could drop next year if the pathways don't change. And I put in a slide on the trends. One thing I would show you, so the blue is the 4-year graduation rate, the black is the 5-year. And the 5-year graduation rate is in there because the state has stated that they need to have a 5-year graduation rate. But federal law permits a student on an IEP to attend school until they're 22 years old, which means that they're going to take 5 or 6 years to graduate. In some cases, it could be 7. And they're legally allowed to do that. However, school districts get penalized when they don't graduate in 4 years or 5. So when we see a drop, it is because we had students likely students with special needs who did not graduate in 5 years. Could there be other students in that? Yes, but predominantly it is our special education population. Prepared for Success. This is a newer measure on the report card, came on last year. And it basically measures whether or not our students are college and career ready based on the components. I know it's hard to see. ACT participation, remediation free, ACT meaning they met the requirements to get into college without remediation. Honors diplomas, credentials for industry recognized credentialing, advanced placement participation, AP score of a 3 or better, dual enrollment, and International Baccalaureate, which the district does not have, and not many districts in the state of Ohio actually do. So those are some of the areas where you can be measured for Prepared for Success. And again, I would point down here, in 15-16 we had 36%, and we earned a C. We had 45.7% in 16-17, and we earned a C. And we had 54.9%, and we earned a D. So that was a state change in how to meet the requirements. So they raised the bar. But again, we are making improvements in that area as well. And we continue to have conversations about that.
Michelle, where do you see the deficiencies in the bars there, in the graph, and the metrics there?
I would really like to see this number, the ACT score, improve. And I think we can do that. I know that I've had some...
Is it the number of students taking the class, or a number of students?
It's the number of students passing with
Passing.
a remediation free. So that means they got a 22, 18, and 22, I think it is, right?
22.
Yeah. So 22 in reading, 22 in writing, and 18 in math. They
And
have to
we're
receive.
testing them earlier, too, and earlier.
So
grades.
statewide, we test them as juniors.
Right.
And that was a statewide mandate last year.
Does that help?
Taking the test, no. I think what we have to look at, some students aren't going to go to college. We know that.
Sure.
We've got students that they're never going to go to college. They want to work, and they know that right now. We have other students that are maybe on the fence. But we've done some things we moved biology down a grade level, and that is to take chemistry sooner so that they'd be better prepared to take the ACT as juniors, because there's a lot of chemistry on the ACT. So that's one thing that we put in place that's in effect this year.
One of the other things, excuse me for a moment, is if you recall last year, we gave the pre-ACT,
Right.
which we gave with our sophomores, and it gave us some good initial data to kind of assess where they are in terms of just the test-taking skills. Because again, what we're talking about is kids taking a test, and we have to get them to understand the metric, and what they're going to be asked. So that was something else we put into play.
And the other is encouraging students to take it more than once. Most students who take the ACT a second time will see a 1 or 2 point increase in their ACT scores. And you notice if you have children or yourselves who tested it at one point or another. But a lot of kids say, well, I have a good enough score to get into college, I don't want to take it again. So encouraging them to take it again to try and improve those scores.
Do they take the best score you have?
Depends on the school.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
school, it all depends, it's school dependent. Some will super score, where they will take the best of the individual, like, hey, I got a 22 in math that time, I want that. But some schools will say, just give me the best grouping of scores. Oh, I took it in February of 18, and so that's the one. So
Okay.
it really is school dependent.
For this measure, it's when we give it. So when we give every junior the test, that's the score that's used. So if they took it again later their junior year, that score wouldn't be counted on a report card. So it may be, and that's one of the conversations that we may have, do we as a district test them as sophomores, which makes me cringe because they're already taking a lot of assessments as sophomores, to get them prepared. It's a challenge. Maybe we offer some, I don't know. There's a lot of conversation that can go around that. Again, I have to balance either the report card, personally as an educator, the report card with what's best for kids. And that's always a challenge. So, any other questions on this? So, Brooklyn schools progress, I took the 16-17 data for each building. We kept them 3 separate at the time because that's what the data came in at. Next year, there will be just 2 buildings. To show the change in data from each year. So our overall grades changed dramatically. And that goes into, that can be a lot of different reasons, and we're going to look at those actually specifically tomorrow when we meet as a district and talk about building-specific data. Where is the information coming to us, and how can we make those improvements so that we can see these improve overall? But, in talking with Dr. Gleichoff, I said the district has done a phenomenal job with the resources it has to make improvements, and coming in with fresh eyes, I see some other areas where we can continue to make those gains. And I think the teaching staff here is very dedicated, and I applaud them, and I look forward to working with them. And I think they are looking forward to doing the hard work that's necessary. So, any questions?
Go ahead.
Good.
No, you're good.
I want to go back to the K-3 progress report. I want to segue off of what Mike had came up before to talk to us about. Is it, how do we identify our students at an early age that might be dyslexic?
So dyslexia, and Mrs. Jones is here too, and she's probably can jump in at any time and add to this conversation. It is a newer, not a newer disability, but one that districts have recently started to work towards addressing in classrooms. There are a number of programs out there, but in terms of identifying them, really it's through observation that we start noticing that students aren't responding to the interventions we're putting in place at an early age. And those are conversations we're going to have through what we develop in RTI, which is response to intervention. So looking at, we're putting Tier 1 instruction is what's happening in the classroom every day. So what kind of interventions are we putting in place every day in the classroom to assist students with the multitude of areas where they might have weaknesses, and that's kids with an IEP and without, doesn't matter. And then if they're not responding to that, then we move them to Tier 2, and we respond with a more intensive intervention. And if they're still not responding, and then we go to Tier 3, and we talk about some significant, maybe one-on-one or small group instruction where we're addressing significant needs because they're still not responding. And I think that was one of the things that when I came on board here was discussed extensively about developing that process so that we can start catching them sooner.
And what grade level does that start?
Kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was starting.
You kind of answered my question as far as it's more of a following a protocol as far as steps as opposed to a one-size-fits-all. I mean, there's not a variety of different approaches you can take to bridge the gap in K-3 literacy.
Yeah, there is, and acquiring the ability to comprehend reading is complex and different for every kid. And so we have to tailor our instruction that way, and that's one of the critical conversations I'm having with teachers right now is differentiating instruction in the classroom every day. And we should not be only trying one method. There's multiple ways to address student needs, and we need to be using them.
Let's see what else I wrote down here. Is the state board is the one that decides the indicators and maybe the reason why they change year to year?
So the state board is involved in that, but the legislature is also very much involved in that, probably more so than the state board. The state board really has little power when it comes to developing the standards and the report card. It really comes from the legislature. So if you have concerns, I highly advise you to have conversations with your elected officials.
I had that.
Yeah. I know, but.
Just another little question. When we go to a two-building report card next year, the fact that there's a gap between pre-K to 3 and then there's a pre-K to 7, how should that affect it? Because it's talking 7th grade versus our kindergarten, basically.
So the building configuration won't change that at all because the pre-K, or the K-3 literacy, it only measures.
Right, but I mean, as far as the assessments go, as far as assembling all that data into, you're now assembling it from a wider pool, let's say, because of the fact that there's such an age disparity between.
But it won't,
It won't
because,
matter?
no, because your assessments are specific to the grade levels.
Okay.
So K3 will still be a K3 measurement regardless of the fact that they're housed in a K7 building.
Okay.
And I came from a district prior to this where we were K7 in one building. It has no impact on the report card.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
I think my question would be more for Paula, if I can get it out. With Mr. Chang Gary said that some of those kids with the dyslexic, and I happen to know there's another handful of kids in one particular area that has it. What are you gonna do to? Well, how can we like find it out before it actually starts becoming a problem? Where are we like discovering that? I mean, at what point do we start looking for dyslexia?
Well, you're ultimately looking for a reading disability, dyslexia or otherwise. And so, as Michelle was describing the RTI process, I understand we all would love to know beforehand that there's a discrepancy in a child's learning abilities, and we're going to address it before it even shows. But they have to attend school. They have to, participate for us to see that they're not responding to typical instruction. They're not assessing well. And so when you start to see that happening, that's when you start to put in different strategies. And then you take data to determine how do they respond to that strategy. If they aren't, we try something different. And then that's, as the RTI process goes, if they're not responding to that, we do more. And it sometimes means then they need an IEP for that very intensive type of intervention. And the programming that we have in place is very specific to and why we do well in decoding, because this is from kindergarten up to kind of what we call universal. It's for everyone. So that's the one thing we do to attempt to teach those decoding skills early. But it's a very structured reading program so that if someone does have dyslexia, that is a research-based type of program to address those needs.
So obviously I don't want to say the parents, but parents and the school has obviously missed it. So now we have these kids with the dyslexia. So does the one teacher that we have, am I correct? You're hearing one teacher? No, all right.
No, we have teachers trained now, kindergarten through 12th grade. What he's referring to is that this year we now added, because we have to do it in increments, and we've now addressed 7th through 12th grade. It's based on student identified need, and so we have a teacher in those grades who are grouping kids, because they don't meet one-on-one, they do it in small groups to address the needs of those kids. And so if they're identified as the need for.
So these teachers aren't overflooded with too many of these kids where they.
No.
Okay, all right.
There are some kids that are, you can reach some of the kids with their disabilities if it's in a small group as opposed to one-on-one, if it's early.
So let me demystify. I think what your question is really interesting, Mr. Hennings, and that is, how does one teach a kindergartner how to read? And so, I'll give you the thumbnail. So imagine you're the teacher and I'm your student, and so you've got data on me from the beginning of school. You've got a kindergarten readiness, and it has a particular number associated with that. And so you've put little Mark into a reading group with some specific kids. And so already Mark's maybe in the lower quartile of the class. So I'm going to keep an eye on him. So you're going to bring specific reading to me and my group that's going to be. So you're sitting with me, and you start to identify maybe some reading inconsistencies. And you're like, you're making notes of that. So what you might say is, I might want to get some additional help. We've got Title I support, which is federal dollars to support. We've got teachers. So maybe during a reading block time, when not working specifically with you, the teacher, I might be with a Title I teacher getting some other very prescripted reading instruction based on what you observed while I was in that reading group. Maybe that teacher says, you know what, Mark's still not making progress. There's even more intensified. Go to step 2 or the second level of, there's even more intense reading level instruction that's being provided. We've now provided even Wilson language or other types of programming that is very prescriptive for students without reading, with reading inconsistencies. So I think your question's great because it kind of allows us to talk about how teachers try to identify within a group of maybe 25 how little Mark is reading or not reading up to grade level. And so you're going to periodically test me on some assessments to get an idea of where my reading level is and how I've responded to the interventions that not only you've provided, that Title I teachers provided, maybe that special education teacher has provided, and so am I making progress?
So,
I would
Go ahead,
add
I'm
to
sorry.
that too, that the district does
Go
not
ahead, Bill.
diagnose dyslexia. We're not physicians, so we're not able to diagnose the condition of dyslexia. We will instruct in the areas where we see students, when we start to see a response, we'll start to continue to do that work. But for us, it is sometimes a hit or miss for a while until we find out what it is. And even for physicians, it's difficult with younger students to determine that dyslexia is truly what the issue is.
So on that, I'm sorry,
No,
go ahead.
you go, no, go finish your thought, because I'll.
So on this report card, does it show like where we're working with these? I mean, is there like for learning disabilities, how,
Yeah.
you know?
So going back to, where was it? Yeah, so right here, we talk about, and I can give the board more detailed information, but when we look at the lowest 20% of the students with disabilities, this is the category, students with disabilities were earned a B. So I can break that down further in the report card data that shows what, in each subcat, and I didn't put it on this graph, but I have that and I could share it with the board. As each category of disability, it'll show the growth that we've made in those categories from year to year. So we're doing a good job of addressing students with disabilities. Is it perfect? No, we've still got work to do there.
I want to note again with progress, because I think A, B, C, D, F with that. The other thing is C needs C. And we all know what happened when we brought C's home with mom and dad.
I was
We're like,
praised. but I don't know
C
about you
actually
guys.
means you make a year's growth in a year's time. A B or an A means you've actually made more than a year's growth in a year's time. So when we receive an A, that A actually indicates, and I think it says there, students made more progress than expected.
Yes.
Significant evidence, meaning our students are making more than a year's progress in a year's time. And that's, as if I know that my kids are doing that, I'm like, okay, that's good. They're making progress. They're making significant progress.
Yeah, and this dark green, which is where we are, is significant. The lighter green is moderate evidence of students making more than expected growth. And then the orangish yellow is where we stayed, flat essentially. We made progress equal to what everyone in the state did. And then the orange and the red is areas where we did not.
So my question is, I have a question. We've heard that we have one person trained, we have one teacher trained for the dyslexic, or how many? How many teachers do we have trained? How many do we have trained? Is it one? How many, or how many?
So
1, 5,
total
3?
teachers in kindergarten through third grade general ed are trained in the, what we'll say, the universal and tier 2 category. And then the tier 3, very specific, that children with dyslexia often respond to this specific program. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers trained to address all grade levels.
From-
And they are not at all overwhelmed with the groupings that they have.
So we need-
So they, all
Because
5 can be
not all
in
children-
kindergarten, all 5 can help out in the high school?
Absolutely. Not all students with reading disabilities respond to that program.
So we would not put it in every classroom for every
Right.
student.
No, I'm just asking, but
Yes,
it's like,
and typically, it's not until third grade that they would respond.
Okay.
And for instance, students with cognitive disabilities, specifically, the program will tell you will not respond to
Okay.
this program because of the type of instruction. It's very specific to certain students, not just with dyslexia, but a certain cognitive ability. And again, they can be put into small groups.
Okay.
So,
Is it kind of a
But all-
two, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
but
Pam.
all 5 of them can work with kindergartners
Yep.
through,
if it were
11th
appropriate,
Yes.
No, I'm just saying, like, each one of them are certified. I want to know that each, so you have 5 that are certified, that what, are pre-K through 12 or K through 12? They can do
Okay.
K through 12. So you have 5 that can do any grade level. I'm just making sure we have clarification on this. Okay.
Is it kind of a two-way street where maybe the teacher has a suspicion that the child might be dyslexic, but it can't officially make that determination until there's a doctor involved? Or do they maybe go back to the parent and say, you know, little Mark is having issues as far as reading goes, and I think there's a suspicion that it could be dyslexia?
Well, like Michelle said, we can't diagnose it.
Mhm.
It's just like any other medical diagnosis the
Right.
doctor would make. We can certainly say, and are required to say, if we suspect that there's some kind of reading deficiency, and put some interventions into place.
Mhm.
It really doesn't matter what it's called as far as the school's concerned, because we need to address it. Many parents don't choose to go further and look for a medical diagnosis. So we could very much have students in our population with dyslexia that we're not aware of, but we are still addressing what we see are their reading needs. And many of them may then be on IEPs because they need that more intensive intervention. If we are given a diagnosis by a parent, certainly that helps us
Right.
with the process and saying, oh, there it is, and moving forward with what we need to do.
Not to diminish that, but I mean, it could be the same as a hearing disability or something of that nature as well. where they're not hearing
So,
class.
and so
Yeah.
it's the district's responsibility, if we see a student having difficulties, is to develop a team, including the parent, in that conversation, and start having that conversation, that these are the areas where we see weaknesses, and if we continue to see those deficiencies where it's impacting the achievement of the child, then that's when we start having that conversation about that.
Potential of an IEP or something.
And that's been the standard practice.
Anybody else?
So we're having, what, that red means we need to work harder?
Yep.
So seems like, what, that's the 8th grade? I see a lot of
So
red.
here's what I would say to you about that. Yes, we see that in 8th grade, but I don't like to say it's 8th grade, because we have a continuum of education, right? We have building blocks essentially. So when I talk with staff about where we are on the report card, it's our problem, right? And we need to look at all areas, and that's one of the conversations that we're gonna have tomorrow in vertical conversations, K through 12 in English language arts, for example, K through 12 in math. We're gonna have conversations about, this is what I'm seeing in my classroom where students are having a difficulty. How are we preparing them before they come to me with this? Because if we don't have those conversations, I don't know as the 4th grade teacher that measurement is a problem when they get to 8th grade, for example. So I need to have that dialogue with the 8th grade teacher to say, they really can't do measurement. And so we need to look at that from a continuum K-12. And so I think, yes, this is an area where we definitely need to do work, but we need to do it as a district and have that conversation at multiple grade levels.
All right.
If that makes sense.
So Michelle, how do we identify bad teachers?
Well,
Wow.
that way. Jesus takes
Stop
us.
it.
So I will tell you, I would like to say, I don't want to say off the bat that there are bad teachers out here in Brooklyn. I would like to say that we need to provide support for teachers. There is not a teacher that I've met so far that has said, I'm not doing that. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I had the conversation, I said, here's what I see from my observations in classrooms. Tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where we need to go. And they said, no, you're absolutely right, we need to work on that. And so I think they are ready to do the hard work and do what's necessary to make improvements in the classroom. I think they just, I go in there and say, I'm gonna come in and model for you. And they're saying, can you come tomorrow? And so I think that's absolutely telling of the kind of teachers that you've hired here that are willing to do that. Because I haven't seen that in every district. A lot of times I go into districts and they're like, I'm doing just great, I don't need you to come in my classroom. And so I have to, work with them and say, no, you really need me to come in. That's not the case here. So I think.
Yeah, my concern is this: when a child goes from, let's say, 5th grade to 6th grade, 6th grade to 7th grade, and you see in the charts that grouping
Didn't make growth.
is making growth, and then all of a sudden there's a stall there for some reason. That's kind of unexplained.
Yeah.
And because a group is now with in a different learning environment, whether it's a new teacher
Right.
or a new learning environment, and all of a sudden, the grades drop off.
And so there are two things.
So I'm looking at cause and effect.
Yeah, and I will tell you, one of the things that I would be careful of with that is that some of these assessments are more difficult than others. For example, the geometry assessment is incredibly difficult. And so students may do exceptionally well, plus it's a different mindset, algebra versus geometry. But students may do very well with, let's just use the name Becky as a math teacher. And she taught Algebra 1, and those kids did exceptionally well, and she taught geometry, and they didn't make grow. Well, is it the teacher and the environment, or is it the assessment? So we have to look at more than just this assessment data to see where are we seeing deficiencies. And that's where we've been talking a lot about how do we collect data on students and know that it is good, reliable data so that we can make comparisons between what our students are doing on the Ohio State tests and what they're doing in our classrooms. Because there should be some correlation, but districts across the state have seen geometry, for example, and the 8th grade math be one of the higher areas of difficulty in passing. So I'm not saying that we can't
Is
get
it
there.
because of the lesson plan, the curriculum? Can you identify what causes that, or is it a combination?
Well, it depends, yeah. I mean, it can be a combination of
Yeah,
stuff, but-
and what I think what I was going to say is, you know, when you use the cause and effect, to use your Becky, is what else is going on in Becky's life? You know, there's a lot of other things we need to understand. You know, you talked about maybe Becky's made improvements over the last couple of years, but all of a sudden there might be a whole different dynamic in Becky's home all of a sudden when she gets to 4th grade. And so, you know, maybe parents got divorced, maybe she's got a new sibling, maybe blah, blah, blah. Those things are some of the challenges that we start to grapple with as educators, because it's not as, you know, we'd love to say that all 1,400 of our young people here, you know, you just apply the same thing and they're going to respond. They're all so unique. And that's why, you know, I got 3 kids at home. Boy, are they unique. And I can't try one thing and all 3 of them are going to jump. So that's why it's, you know, education is such a inspiring and invigorating profession, because you really have to learn your craft and try different things to help. And, you know, good schools, you know, you can have good curriculum, good teachers, and solid staff. And when you do that, you're going to be successful. And I got to be honest, we've got good teachers. Because, you know, the limitation with the report card is, and I said this to some folks in the media, when they talk about the report card, so, you know, happy, sad, whatever, I said, it's good, it's a good measure for us, it helps us identify where we are, maybe some areas we need to focus, but that report card doesn't tell the public that we've got great teachers that work with our kids every single day. It doesn't tell that the class of 2018 earned $300,000 in scholarships last year. It doesn't tell the public that the class of 2018 earned 337 credits, the college credits, that are going to save their moms and dads a whole lot of money. It doesn't say that we offer in Brooklyn Chinese language instruction by an instructor in-house, which many schools do not. So it doesn't tell the whole story. It's got limitations to it. So I think that's why when we data dive into a report card, we try to look at it as diagnostic, meaning what can we learn from it and how does it impact what we do going on in the future.
And I would tell you for Brooklyn too, in this category with the lowest 20%, when you look at socioeconomics, we're one of the best achieving districts when you look at students living in poverty and achieving. Because that's one of the huge indicators for deficiencies in learning, because students are dealing with a multitude of issues when they go home, and school is the least of their concern. So we need to be sensitive to that, and one of the things that I'm very, from my previous district to here, that I'm happy is that our staff care about our kids. And if kids know that their teachers care about them, that's half the battle for our kids, because it may be the only smile they see or the only food they have. And that's unfortunate, but it is reality. And so we need to acknowledge that and keep that in mind too when we're talking about making gains.
Well, in my own household, I can attest that one of the factors is hormones.
Jesus.
But
There's that, yes.
I've got to share this, I just want to kind of add to.
Jesus, take
add on to what
There you
Dr.
go,
Mark was
and
saying.
it didn't come from me.
That is,
Mark.
my youngest is very, very good at math, and she said her classes are not as challenging as she'd like them to be. I said, well, that's where you need to talk to your teacher and ask them to challenge you. You know, it's a more, intense math problems. And, you know, I would think that the teacher would accommodate
Yeah.
and kind of go off a little bit just to have her learn more. But the same teacher with another child, another friend, says that the teacher's too tough on them. So, yeah, I see what you're saying, but my biggest concern as a board member is always, you know, if we do have some bad apples, first of all, can we identify them? You know, the biggest challenge that you have as administrators is once the kids graduate from that class, okay, that teacher's usually done with them in the elementary school. So, and then they don't perform, so then the blame game goes on the current teacher, not on the teacher who may not have completed the lesson plans for the year, maybe went through half the lesson plans. So that's how I see the cause and effect. Is it wasn't caused by the current instructor, but possibly by previous instructors.
So to answer that, because I was going to come back to your original question, and to answer that, you know, we will identify through the evaluation, through really through observation. I mean, being in classrooms, but with myself and all the administrators at the elementary and high school level are in classrooms daily, and Dr. Blackhoff, we're in classrooms daily, and we're looking for best teaching practices. And then we have conversations at the district level and at the building level and in teacher teams about modeling those best practices for the rest of the staff, because we want to replicate that. And as long as teachers are willing and are doing that work, then we expect to see growth. It's when we start to see resistance that then we're going to have critical conversations with that staff member about these are the things you need to do to improve, or you're going to be put on an improvement plan. I mean, so those are absolute conversations that we will have through the evaluation process with all staff members. And for our staff that are doing well, you know, giving them those accolades and encourage them to continue that work, because we want to also encourage our best teachers to get better and share their knowledge with others, because we can't get into an isolation where we shut our door and we don't have conversations.
Yeah.
We have to be having conversations all the time with staff, you know, about the good things that are happening.
I'm glad you said that, Mrs. Kalish, because that was, you took the words right out of my mouth, and that is, one of the things that we demand is that teachers collaborate with each other. And, you know, that's kind of a new feeling, because when I started in this profession many years ago, I didn't collaborate with my teammate. I was brought to the door and said, okay, you're going to teach 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and 11th grade English. Good luck. I never got to team with my other English teacher, and I would have loved to sat down with Terry Roscoe and said, what are your lesson plans? How do you teach this? What are the concepts, and how do you do that? And
How
now,
do you stretch your most challenging student, right?
now we demand that our teachers are meeting together, looking at formative assessment together, and looking at assessment data together, and crafting lessons to do that. That would have made me an immensely much better teacher at a much quicker, rapid pace. And so now that's something. So we mitigate what your concern is, because isolation, there's research that says teachers that teach in isolation and never collaborate, it's detrimental to student achievement. Now we have to get them to really work together on that. And so that's why collaboration is a big, big part of what we do.
And one of the conversations I'll share with today from LPCC, which is a committee I'm on with some staff, was how do we want some individual professional development. Could we get like online modules that we could use to better ourselves in areas where we feel like we're weak in? And I said, you know, absolutely. So I'll be working to create kind of a curriculum guide for our staff who are interested in wanting to take courses maybe in gifted or in extending challenging math lessons and things like that, so that they can do that on their own time, and learn, maybe alongside a peer, a colleague. But I was happy to hear that that's what they were asking for, and so we'll be working towards that as well. And that happened about an hour ago. Well, 2 hours ago. Anything else?
Yep. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
appreciate
thank
it.
Thanks, Mrs. Kalish.
Dr. Liphoff, anything else?
No, I
Okay.
think we've
Covered a
Covered
whole
it.
realm of things there. We're gonna have to make a motion to amend to the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, we're gonna go on to Mr. Street and the treasurer report.
Mr. President, may I make a point of order at the end of the meeting that you can vote 3 minutes of time for me to speak? You can take a vote of the board, it's in the code. This is important.
Mr. Chingari, you had your 3 minutes. I want you to be heard. All right?
Come back at the next meeting.
Please, we can have conversation outside as well.
And I would
too.
be more than happy to meet with you tomorrow.
Well, this is the referencing to your phone call to me that you want me to meet with Mrs. Jones, Mr. Glykoff, the board attorney, and myself.
I understand that.
Can I get it on the record that dyslexia and all of the disabilities I talk about, they're genetic? They're tested at an early age. Everything they said is a bunch of crap.
Mike.
Mike, we're done.
Research.
We're done, Mr. Chingari, we're
Okay,
done. All
I'll
right,
be
we're
back at the
done.
next meeting.
All right, we'll have a conversation outside, but we're not gonna have it here now.
Okay.
Okay?
I appreciate that. Thank
You got
for
it.
addressing my point of order.
All right. Okay, we're gonna go on to Mr. Street's treasurer report.
Well, all those things that Mrs. Kalish had talked about, those are certainly difficult challenges, but certainly rewarding. Makes my job a lot easier when I hear all the things that you folks have to go through. Wanted to talk about 3 projects that we had over the last year that are mostly finished up. We had a House Bill 264 energy project that the cost of that project is $600,000. It is guaranteed to have a payback between the company that installed the lighting, the energy controls, and the kitchen hood, and the state of Ohio guarantees that payback. And so we should save about $50,000 a year in order to recoup that $600,000 that we spent, and then $50,000 going forward. That project is pretty much complete. Dr. Glykoff had mentioned about the high school roof overlay. That project cost about $350,000. Everyone knows how that roof leaked. It was an aged roof. As many people know, we had a couple of permanent improvement levies on the ballot to address the roof. Unfortunately, we lost by a couple of votes, and so we are able to take care of that project on a different scale than what we would have, but certainly take care of it to prevent the leak in the roof. And then another project that we had over this summer with the technology in the schools, which is something that the administration and board have really tried to address and move forward with. There were 240 Chromebooks purchased over the summer. Chromebooks are basically laptops for the students to use. We purchased 8 carts, which house 30 Chromebooks apiece to keep them safe, and then recharge their batteries overnight. And that probably was about $50,000 for that. So it's not cheap to run a school district. It's one of the reasons that we are coming back to the community in November for money. There's just a lot of costs that are not always apparent to the community. And we understand that money is tight, but it's certainly something to pay forward with the kids. And I've been in districts that have been in situations like this before, and all that it takes is a levy to pass, and that district can just rise over the top and really move forward. So I would certainly ask for everybody's support in November to take the district to the next step, because that money will be good for quite a number of years to be able to continue to move the district forward. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Street. We're going to go on to, no, we're going to have to amend the agenda to comments from board members, visitors, board committees. Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
We're going to go on to comments from board members. First one is Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for everyone who came tonight and spoke. We appreciate you coming, and we appreciate hearing your voices. I would, Mr. Chingari, I would like that you, hope that you would be able to reach out to Mr. Neal, and you'll be able to set something up for you to be able to speak with him or Dr. Glykoff at a future time. Or you are always welcome to come back at the next meeting, and we'd love to hear everything you have to say. The 2018-2019 school year is in full swing, and the buildings are alive with activity. I hope everyone had a great summer. I hope that everyone has a successful year, and I look forward to the many things to come this school year. Fall sports are in full swing. I don't want to, a lot of the things that I was going to say, I know other people have on their list. I'm sure Bob's going to talk about our sports teams, and a lot of people have talked about, if he can stop coughing.
If I can stop coughing, that's
We may
right.
discuss our sports team. And I wanted to say that, I know that it's already been discussed, but issue 3 and the money that the state took away from us with the tangible personal property tax, we're hoping that every one of the residents knows what that means, and we're going to explain it to them the best that we possibly can and the easiest way possible, so that they know that it's the reason why we're coming back to the residents isn't because of mismanagement of money, isn't for any of those reasons, it's because our funding has been cut by the state. And if the state was still giving us the same amount of money that they were giving us back in 2010, we wouldn't be coming to the residents right now needing this levy. So please, if you have any questions about the levy, anything you don't understand, anything you want clarified, please reach out to one of the board members, Dr. Glykoff, Mr. Street. Please, we are more than willing to talk with you about the levy and help you understand anything that you need to. I would also encourage everyone to come to the levy kickoff meeting that Dr. Glykoff mentioned on the 25th on Tuesday. I know he mentioned it before, so I would encourage everyone to come and get involved, and so it's a good way to help out the schools and help out our city. The Domestic Violence Commission met this month, and there are some ideas to bring some programs into the school. There's a lot of good things. Love Doesn't Shove is a new program that they want to bring, like would be good for the schools. So there's some things that are being discussed. The next Domestic Violence Committee meeting is October 10th at 6 p.m. at the fire station. Please come out and support all of our students, all of our athletic, our music department students. We have the best band in the land, not down in Columbus, but hey, a little partial. And we also have some exciting things going on in the city that the kids are doing, so please come out and support them. Thank you again for everyone who did come, and I look forward to all of you supporting our levy and supporting our students and supporting us as we move forward, and know that we are doing what's best for the schools, for the kids, and that we are managing the money in a very responsible way. Thank you so much, and I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. On to Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the people who are here, some familiar faces, friends, and thank you for your support of our Brooklyn schools. And more importantly, thank you for your interest in Brooklyn Public Schools. Sure beats Facebook. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for being here, elaborating, again, reaffirming your willingness to work with our school board. I think we can come to some kind of solution to what Brooklyn needs in the future. You have my support as a board member for anything that will improve our community. And thank you again for your comments. Looking forward to working with you. I want to congratulate Mr. Jeff Jones, who happens to be Brooklyn's Teacher of the Month. Thank you for caring and being an example to our Brooklyn students. Congratulations to Seth Majewski, Brooklyn Student of the Month. I know our family cast a bunch of ballots for Seth online, social media. I also want to congratulate, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, forgive me if I'm not, Sechelle Carter, being named Student of the Week for September 10th. This just reinforces again what Dr. Glykoff and Michelle told us about how we are achieving. I look at that report card with maybe a grain of salt, because I know sometimes the metrics just don't fit our district, or small districts like ours as well. My best measure, honestly, is when I ask my neighbors and their kids, I ask my daughters, what did you learn today? Or how well are you doing? And when they got the report cards, I can see that they're excelling. You know, the old saying, and I'm sorry for being repetitious, but you know the kids enjoy school when they run to school and walk slowly out of school. That tells me that the children are learning and they enjoy the learning environment. So I know my daughters and their friends, you know, I tell them, I said, I don't care if you like your teacher, quite frankly. I don't care if they're your best buddy or whatever. I said, my metric, my measurement is that they go on to the next year having learned something. So with that, I just want to reinforce, please attend the SOS School Finance Forum and the kickoff meeting on Tuesday, September 25th from 6 to 7 at the Brooklyn High School Auditorium. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of clutter out there in social media about why we're doing a continuous levy, what is TPP, why don't we get that money anymore? We had discussions about why is the state picking on Brooklyn? Why do we get less money than charter schools? Well, this is probably a good forum to attend, to get answers to some of those questions. And even as a board member, I'm perplexed by sometimes how these formulas work. And I'm also perplexed sometimes as to why our state representatives are not doing the kind of work they should be doing for not only our school district, but other school districts, as far as addressing issues that Mr. Changari have brought to our attention. You know, this is not a Brooklyn issue. This is a statewide issue for state funding. You know, it's easy for states to say, well, you have a mandate, but we're not going to fund it. We're just going to mandate it. So we really have to press on our state officials to do more for, especially worthwhile programs like that maybe earmark or target those kind of issues. Congratulations to our Brooklyn High School Hurricanes football team on their recent win, Hawken, and our girls soccer team who won their game against, I believe it was Columbia. I want to say I'm thankful that we found a new replacement for our treasurer, John Street, who will be severely missed. I know Sheets will miss him dearly. When he goes back to retirement for what? Is this
We give him my
the
points.
second time, John, or third time? Going back to retire?
We still got 3 months.
That's right, he's here till Easter.
And John has served us well. I'm excited about our replacement, Dave, who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience and skill level to our school district. Our state report card, just to reiterate, you know, I like the progress we're making, but we still have a long way to go. I think, again, part of the SOS meeting should be to talk about the report card, about the progress we have been made. You know, maybe a little old-fashioned, I came from an old school that had A, B, C, D, and F, and I didn't dare come home with D's or F's and try to explain the metrics of what that meant to my parents. Usually I got a little bit of a swat in between that time period. But, you know, I think you make a lot of good points, and I think that should be addressed again at the SOS meeting. As far as where are we achieving, where can we improve, and how can we parents help to go in that right direction. I do think we're doing well. As long as I've been on a school board, I see more progress in our education than I've ever seen before. So with that, I'm glad our energy project is completed. We're going to be saving our district a lot of money on our energy savings program. I'm glad we got the 200 Chromebooks because technology is it, folks. The CEO of the Federal Reserve, Dr. Kaplan, he's the CEO of the Federal Reserve in Dallas, said the biggest challenge that our country has in the next 5 to 10 years is the fact that a lot of us, myself included, are near retirement, and we have to be replaced by other workers who have to be skilled. And part of the problem that the employers have is they cannot find enough skilled employees. 42% of our kids don't make it through graduation of high school, and that's alarming. That's very alarming. What's even more alarming is when I see graduates from high school having to take remedial classes in math and English in their first years of college. So I think we're all under the gun here to make sure that we're producing productive citizens, not only in Brooklyn, but everywhere else. And I gotta say, I'm very proud of our graduates from what I've seen, what I've learned, the jobs that they've taken. That's the measurement tool for when people say our schools aren't as good as they used to be. You know, I look in the back and I see Andy sitting over there. Andy, I don't know if you're sleeping or not. You just got your chin up. But, you know, Andy's an example of a Brooklyn graduate success. And I've always said this, and I'm sorry for being so long-winded. We need to bring more Brooklyn graduates back to Brooklyn schools to tell our kids, you can do what I've done. You can even do better than what I've done going through Brooklyn schools. And I see with that kind of reinforcement, when they talk to people like Jim Oper or Andy or other people who've graduated, Bob Higgins, who've made a career in the military and been very successful, this is the message that these kids are looking for. You want to call it show and tell, that's fine, but that's what we need to really focus on, not only the educational component, but also the life learning lessons to show how other people have been successful coming out of Brooklyn. I can be reached by phone or text at 216-978-1931. Thank you, Mr. President, for indulging me.
You got it. On to Mr. Hennings.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, Dr. Glykoff, I want to congratulate you on a very successful first day of school. I think you pretty much shocked every kid as they walked through, getting hugged and high-fived and fist bumps. They didn't know whether to turn around and run or just make a right turn and go right to their locker. They're like, oh my God, where is this coming from? So standing there, it was kind of funny watching them all walk in. I had a couple of taps on my shoulder asking me, can you show me how to open my locker? I'm like, I got a pry bar around here somewhere. We'll get that thing open. So I hope Mr. Wingler got all those lockers open. I know they were starting to pile up there. Also, congratulations to the fall sports. We've done moderately well. Both football teams, the middle school is right now at 500, and our varsity team is at 500. But what I'm most happy is 95% of the kids on the football team are eligible. I mean, for the last 4 years, by the time halfway through the program, we had 18 people left on a team. Now we got 40 people on a team, and most of them are eligible. I'd say 95% are eligible. And I think that's a credit to our staff, our teachers, and what the principals are doing right now. So congratulations to them. You know, that's definitely one mark that I look at, how many kids are eligible to do anything. So, not to mention, we actually have a JV team this year. We played probably 3 or 4. Actually, we have more schools canceling out on us than we did last year, the last 3 years, so we're doing really well. Are we allowed to say anything about October 6th? Or is that still not sure yet?
Nothing like putting him on the spot and just saying, why don't you ask about October
Would that
6th?
mean going door to door?
Pardon?
No, I don't think he's talking about going door to door.
stadium.
The
No,
stadium.
the-
football.
The Ignatius?
Oh, absolutely, go ahead.
I can, okay. October 6th. Well, I wasn't going to say nothing if I couldn't say nothing.
Nothing like
We can say St. Ignatius in a public school, it's okay.
Okay. You know, around my neighbor, I've been saying America versus Canada, so, you know, we'll keep it like that. But St. Ignatius on October 6th will be playing Canada, so please, I mean, it's going to be a good game.
All of Canada, obviously.
Yeah, Canada's coming in, we're taking them all on. So,
They will be renting the facility, correct?
yes, they'll be renting the facility, and I think Dr. Glykoff can probably fill us in better with where that all going. But it's going to be a great game, so come on out. I'll be cooking, you know. We'll have all kinds of good food there, so everything goes towards the athletic boosters. Also, much of that will also be put towards the senior night fireworks, so anybody, it's that time again, get your checkbooks out. October 26th also will be the last home game of the year, and we will be doing fireworks again. So if anybody is interested in donating towards the fireworks show, it'll be appreciated. You can either hit me up or any person who's either in the music boosters, the athletic boosters, or the PTA. They'll make sure that the money gets to where it needs to go. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hennings. On to Mr. Oprah.
It's a tough act to follow. I'd like to thank everybody who spoke tonight. Mayor, we'll get through this. We'll press reset after the levy and get things cranking. I'd like to thank Mr. Van Kirk and Mr. Changary for their comments as well. My Polaris update, the third floor is finally complete and in use. There are now architectural walkthroughs being conducted and punch lists created, and 2 of the labs are open and occupied, the electronics and aeronautics. The Higley is adding, construction company's adding lockers and dry erase boards to those labs, and 3 of the high bay mezzanine classrooms are transitioned to the school, so they're in their classrooms on Monday. The new elevator passed the inspection, and also the 3 remaining mezzanine classrooms will be turned over this past Monday, and the students will be in there tomorrow. All phase 1 work is now completed. Phase 2 construction is progressing with continued demolition and saw cutting of the concrete floor. Walls are going up on the 2nd floor, and electric wiring is beginning this week. And once phase 2, the cosmetology and the culinary arts programs are going in their classrooms now, but at phase 2, they'll be turned over to a new location. Enrollment. High school numbers are down this year, but that's not just Brooklyn, it's every district. I guess that year wasn't, it's just, juniors are just down in all districts. So there, 394 students are presently there with Brooklyn, and it's always been a point of pride for me, always has the largest percentage of juniors and seniors with 54% of them attending. Aeronautics and electronics are down a little bit, so the principal is working with the teachers and the recruitment department to develop plans for this year's visitation and recruitment of freshmen and sophomores. The Plain Dealer, I don't know if you've seen it, has been running a weekly feature called Pathways to Progress, and it's examining what the state is doing or not doing to ensure that educational institutions, including career centers, are preparing high school students adequately, or just finding adults wishing to change careers or find opportunities in the workforce. Beth, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Malati of Cleveland.com is visiting this week at Polaris, and there'll be an article in the paper shortly. I'd like to echo my fellow board members' comments as far as the football team, having won a few games this year, and all the other fall sports teams are doing well. The report card is always an interesting thing. My business background, it's always been about continuous improvement, and we're seeing continuous improvement, which, you know, it is kind of, as you said, it's kind of hamstrings the district when you go from 47 to a 69, but you still didn't make the 70. I mean, you see the letter grade and it's just like, well, you know, you suck because you have a D. No, that's not the case. As far as issue 3 is concerned, I'd like to echo Mrs. Barczyk's comments. I can't say it any better than she did. As far as it's a state issue. I think anybody that's seen me up here knows my disdain for a lot of the state legislators. And I wish they would get on this, on the stick and finally try to do something. I can be reached at james.oper@bcshurricanes.org or 216-485-8195, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Oper. On to my report. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your speech. Mr. Van Kirk, Mr. Chingari, thank you for your comments. The bottom line comes down to, as Mr. Oper just recommended, issue 3. We all need to get versed in it and understand it. Tangible personal property is something we used to have here and slowly dwindling. So we need everybody's support. Please come to Tuesday's meeting for information, questions. I'm not a Facebook person, so I have no clue what they say on there. The only other thing is, Dr. Glykoff, I'd like to, or we can set a finance committee meeting one day, but I'd like to speak about the busing and the tracking of it and the cost of it as, as part of our finance committee.
Sure.
Technology, I haven't been through the building totally, so I'm looking forward to that. I know the Chromebooks, we've also, I believe, added some security cameras, correct? So I haven't made my one through yet, but I will be. I'd like to welcome everybody back for the new year. So with all that said, my agenda's all messed up. We're going to go on to approval of the minutes and financial statements. Our reader tonight is going to be Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am sick currently too, so if my voice cracks, I apologize, and I may take a lot of drinks of water. So, but I haven't been coughing nearly as much as you, who thought I was like contagious, like calling the CDC. And you, on the other hand.
I'm covering my mouth.
Thank you. Resolved that the minutes of the following Board of Education meeting be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meetings is hereby reaffirmed and approved. Special meeting August 15th, 2018, regular meeting August 16th, 2018, special meeting August 20th, 2018, special meeting August 28th, 2018, special meeting September 4th, 2018, and special meeting September 5th, 2018.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll? Or can I have a, Mr. Street, can you call the roll? I'm sorry.
Yes. Mrs. Barczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of August 2018, including all purchase orders and all then and now statements for the month of August as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Neal? Mr.
Yes.
Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the applications for the following fundraiser activities on file in the Treasurer's Office. The Spirit Wear from the Brooklyn School Pre-K through 7, September and October of 2018, and Avid Mally Chocolates Candy Bar Sales, October 1st through the 15th, 2018. Try to hit up the board meetings. We love chocolate.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
There's pretty standard fundraising activities here. Just don't sell the candy during the school day.
Correct. After 3:12.
Well-
After 3:12.
Oh, yeah, Michelle Obama, she gets upset about that.
Isn't that diet candy?
Yeah, yeah. That's all you can eat.
Nice try, Rick.
Yeah. Good try.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Neal? Mr.
Yes.
Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into agreement with STEP Center of Excellence in Autism for services for the 2018-2019 school year.
Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr.
This is
Glykoff?
for a student whose IEP dictates this outside placement, so we pay for that outside placement.
Okay.
How much is the outside placement? I just want to, when we're going for a levy, just want to give some,
$72,000
for how long?
for 1 year.
72,000 per, how many students? Per
One
per
kid.
One kid.
Per one kid. I
One
know, I'm just-
student.
One student, making sure,
Anybody
How
else?
many do we have?
just one going to that school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barczyk?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the salary schedule placement for the 2018-2019 school year as follows, as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
These are for 3 teachers who have taken coursework recently per the negotiated agreement. When they complete it and they get to a point where they have more coursework that brings them to another point on this pay grid, they submit that. So these 3 have reached the next class level.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Resolved that the Brooklyn City Schools Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2018-2019 supplemental teaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certifications and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? I'll second it. Questions, comments?
Pretty self-explanatory, but per the negotiated agreement, there's several non-teaching supplemental contracts. You'll see here anywhere from team leader, advisors, class trip advisors, coordinators that teachers take on because they're duties that are outside their regular class duties.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2018-2019 supplemental coaching assignment with the provision that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and/or first aid training and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Our winter sports coaches, we start to fill in some of our coaches for those.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following Cats Club staff wages for the 2018-2019 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Cats Club, again, for those who don't know, are before and after care that we hold here within the school.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following CATS employees for the 2018-2019 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just the hours per day for those folks.
Everybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the hours and days for the following staff during the 2018-2019 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
So this is our annual approval of the hours of all of our classified staff. Just some notes on this, new positions. You're probably looking at a lot of folks here in terms of classroom assistants. Remember, we added one new classroom assistant, and that was our study hall monitor, for study hall purposes, I should say. Also, on this, remember, you're going to note that we do not have bus drivers and bus monitors this year. So those opt for, as we subcontract that. We have some positions that are not filled as of yet. Part-time secretary in the pre-K 7 school, we're still finishing up the interviews for that. This is also -1 custodian. We have a posting for a temporary position there. And we're also head cook and a preschool classroom assistant. So those are positions that have not been, they're not here, probably will be filled and will be at subsequent meetings.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following classified personnel for the 2018-2019 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Again, just, here we keep filling in our positions.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following substitute personnel for the 2018-2019 school year as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Like that as noted.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
You know, we just have to approve also our classified personnel for substitute. Some of our folks who work with us also want to be on-call subs as well.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Result that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Street, question, comment?
So the county would not certify in March and April our renewal levy because it had not passed yet. It passed in May. So they left off 7.5 mils on the March or April certificate that what do we call this? We are here. Basically the rates and resolution. So they took off the 7.5 mils that we had for that renewal until it was passed, and now we have to put it back on. They're putting it back on because it passed, and they need us to approve that, the Board of Education to approve that.
Okay. Anybody? Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the amended appropriations for the fiscal year 2019 as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments, Mr. Street?
These are updated appropriations to be passed before the 1st of October. We had you pass temporary appropriations at the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, and this is a more updated appropriations that are in line with our certificate of estimated revenue.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn Board of Education hereby approves a contract for Mr. David Hoskins as treasurer for the Brooklyn City Schools, contract on file in treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments, anybody? Welcome.
Welcome.
Did you bring $1 million check with you?
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, we went through a pretty extensive search. I think there was 12 or 13 applicants.
13 applicants.
13 applicants for a treasurer. If anybody doesn't know, Mr. Street was an interim treasurer for the last 2 years. He kept the seat warm. I think that's what David explained. An interim treasurer keeps the seat warm, and he did a wonderful job. Sheets will miss him, as everybody knows. So we went through some long evenings.
As you can see from our special meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, some long evenings trying to get through it, and David come out on top. We had a lot of very good candidates. I think David has, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, 14 years of experience in several different public schools. He also is his church treasurer. So, and an avid bike rider, tandem bike rider, correct? They ride together on two-seaters. So we'd like to welcome him, but we got to vote on it first. I think,
Yes, I was gonna
right?
say, we can-
You know,
yeah.
Let's vote on it first. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. Then we'll comment. So anyway.
It's not done yet.
So anyway, questions, comments, let's get on the vote. Let's do that. How about that? And then we'll comment again. Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
All right. Welcome.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Oscar.
You want to get up, a few words, don't have to be long.
John, get out of here. Dave, we're here. Come on and sit down.
Don't kick me to the curb
John's
so
got a
quick.
bad.
Just slide over one.
From what I
He's got
understand, it
6 more
doesn't start
months.
till tomorrow, so.
Right, that's true.
I just want to thank the board for this opportunity. The challenges we face in education are many. You've heard some of them tonight. By far not all of them. None of us have all the answers, but I can tell you that the issues that we were discussed tonight are not localized here in Brooklyn, but they are districts all over the state having the same problems. This is my 4th district. I know Mark, I've worked with Mark before. I don't know how many districts Mark's been in, but this is a repeat here, if I remember right.
Correct.
And Michelle, we shared a district.
Wow.
Came from the district, not at the same time, but they're not unique to Brooklyn. They're a problem that we're all facing, and we've had legislation, we've had judicial rulings on how to fix finance, and nothing's changed. It's gotten worse, and we have to keep coming back to our public to ask for more money. That's not an easy decision for the board to make, and it's not an easy decision as voters to give up the extra money, but the ultimate goal and total purpose here is that we educate our children, and that's a huge responsibility, and it is something we have to pay for, and it is worth the investment. So I look forward to starting tomorrow and working on some of those challenges.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else want to comment? Guess not.
John, got anything?
I'm done.
She's got nothing to say now?
Did you show him where
Real
Sheets
nice.
is?
I
Did
do
you
have
take
one
him?
question. Are you going to bequeath Dave with your Sheets card for the
Well,
discount?
it's really Taylor's fault. Taylor
I'll
told
keep the stock up, John.
Because Taylor went to Sheets one day, and I said, "Where'd you get that?" And he said, "Well, at Sheets." I said, "You went to a gas station for lunch?" He goes, "Yeah, they got a lot of stuff." So I thought, I'll try this, and so off I went, and they've got touch screen kiosks. Food comes up right away. You got about 3,000 things to select from. I should go work for them.
You should.
Ask Mark about Sheets.
I get his bonus points.
That was my break time every day at work, right from the garage, right to Sheets.
About 2.
Awesome, awesome.
Oh, before you leave, could you tell Dave where the treasure chest is buried out front?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where our millions are.
We wish.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed my time here. Really great group of people to work with, excellent staff. So, thank you very much for the opportunity. And it's sad going, but I guess there's always have to move along. I guess. So.
Right.
Well, we know you're here till Easter.
Yeah, that's been the other running joke.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a joke?
John's been on 30-day contract since August 1st, so.
Yes.
It's been a running joke that he's gonna be here for the
Till
next 6 months, 3
Thanksgiving,
months,
Christmas.
Thanksgiving, Christmas,
Fine.
until we can get it right. And I think we've got it right. He's gonna be helping probably for the next 30, 60 days, whatever.
Whatever
David making the
he probably won't need that
adjustment.
long, but
And
whatever he needs.
along with Mara, I think you'll be fine.
Mara knows where the bodies are buried.
Right.
Jesus, take the wheel.
So anyway, welcome and thank you, John. Greatly appreciate it. We're gonna go on to do we have any correspondence related to action information?
None,
Anybody?
none for me.
No. Any other business?
I just want to say, as a public time, thank you, John. I've had the pleasure of working with John over the last 2 years, and you never know what you're going to get when you're superintendent. And little did I know that I was going to find somebody who I would respect so much and enjoy working with. When you're a superintendent, you work with a treasurer, you want somebody you can trust with just about anything, whether it's finances or just, the work that we do for the good of 1,400 kids. And John is as good as they get, high integrity, trustworthy, honest, and has been a good friend. And I've enjoyed the time. I will miss him, and I wish him good luck, though, as he tries to retire once again. So, and maybe someday I'll get to join you in there, but we'll see.
It's not that much fun. I mean, I was there and I got rid of it.
John, thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Mark.
Stand up, take a vote.
Thank you.
No, yes, dittos to Mark. We had a great working relationship, and it really takes a lot of trust between the two, and we batter things back and forth because we are in unusual positions as superintendent and treasurer, that only things happen to us that nobody else can really understand, so it's just a good back and forth relationship. So it's been great.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, on to the announcement of next regular meeting of the Board of Education is going to be Tuesday, October 16th in the Media Center located in Brooklyn Intermediate Elementary, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, at 6 p.m. And I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I wasn't
Second.
listening all the
Who was- who
meetings.
was-
I was reading.
Either or, don't matter.
Did we get two out?
I'll take
I
it.
said second.
Okay, I heard a bunch of them. Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Thank everybody.